Hey y'all. So, um, real quick, I gotta get real. I almost quit YANY Beauty. And it wasn't because I didn't love it. It wasn't because I didn't think the product was great, that I didn't think the idea was great. But it was more so that I was pouring into everybody else and everything else and didn't really feel like it was pouring back into me, I guess. All of the different things that I did, it felt like it just never came full circle. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm Yaminah. I am the founder of YANY Beauty, along with Contractor AI and along with Integral Start Consulting. And this is the next episode of Beyond the Bio with me, Unfiltered with Yaminah. Yes, yes. But we're going to talk about this because I think this is one of those things that as entrepreneurs and as business owners, especially ones who are either successful or want to look more successful than they are, don't want to actually talk about. And I feel like if you haven't gotten here yet, you ain't doing it right. And that truly is that moment where you consider walking away from a business that you birthed, that you grew, that you kind of poured your all into. And I think for most of us, especially when we're building something great, that we've gotten to a space where we're like, you know what? I'm throwing in the towel. I'm not doing this no more. I put in too much time, money, energy. Some people are putting in, their emotional, they're draining themselves emotionally and all of that type of stuff. And I think that we get to this point that we kind of just want to move on. So that's what we're going to talk about. And so I feel like what I built at Yanni Beauty and what I am still building, so I did not quit. What Shania and I, and if you don't know, Shania is my daughter, but she's also the partner, co-founder of Yanni Beauty. And so what we're building, I think, is something that's truly beautiful at Yanni Beauty. We had spaces, retail stores that were like, and I'm not just saying this because it's our store, but the places were beautiful. Um, it was really welcoming, really calming. People, when they walked in the doors, they were in awe. We created a platform where indie beauty brands like ours shines. Like the store is all about indie beauty. It wasn't about every product that you could see in, Target or Walmart or Sephora. It was really about beauty brands like ours who are like building it from scratch, um, and really creating products that help people that make people feel seen, feel beautiful and inclusive and all of that stuff, and not just putting a name on a package and saying, hey, here is a product, right? Like, no shade, but like a lot of celebrities do, they just kind of put their names on it because they have a market. But these founders are really out there formulating and creating packaging and doing all of these things. And so we created a space for them and us. Um, but even with all of that, and I think that the idea, especially in our area, was beyond beautiful. I would say we were the first Black-owned kind of beauty supply store in our area, not in Georgia, but in our county. But then also, literally, the only one that we have ever seen of its kind, where the entire store was about emerging beauty brands. The entire store was all about clean beauty and it was all about wellness, even through like services like esthetician services and all of that stuff. We stocked our shelves with amazing products from these small brands. But even with all of that, we had super slow days. Many times. I'm not going to even say it was just sometimes. We had a good amount of slow days, more than I think we should have with the offer, right? I was feeling like with the brands that we supported, we had a lot of local brands, but then we also had brands from all over the world. And, for me, it was, we're all small brands, we're all growing together, right? And so it was more so, we're growing together, right? Even though some of the brands were on different levels, some of them had, had more success than others, but we were all still consider emerging brands, small brands compared to when you think about, L'Oreal's or Maybelline's or, Fenty Beauty's. We were all pretty much considered small emerging brands. And I just, the idea was that we would grow together as brands by supporting one another. But, most times it didn't really feel like it was mutually beneficial. So, when we let brands pitch us, or when we, reach out to brands, we always had the conversation, whether email or, verbally, that, the strategy is for us to all, we put your brand in our store, you let people know where it's at, right? Because if your brand is there and you're letting people know, you're making more sales, we can buy from you more often. But then you're also bringing people in the door for us and other brands. And if we all did this, especially at, 70, 100 different brands, we could all really make something move. But it honestly wasn't always like that. And that wasn't with every brand. We had some really great partner brands that wanted to see us shine. And also, we wanted to see them shine. But that wasn't across the board. And then there were months where when we started bringing on our esthetician services, we had some team turnovers, right? We were bringing on like independent contractors, and they were come and go. Our internal employees were really happy at YANY Beauty. We didn't have issues with that. But the people who came in, they were contractors, so they had all of the right to come in and go out. But that is kind of hard when you bring people in, when you are supplying them with products, when you are training them into all things that's your company. It's hard to constantly have to do that. And then it was really funny because it was through this stage, and I don't know if y'all remember, like, I don't know if it was last year, 2024 or 2023, where everybody had this thing about how they wasn't keeping a job. It was almost like everybody decided that this time, this year, that if a job inconvenienced me in any way, that they weren't staying at the job. And so that had been circulating around social media so much that I think a lot of people had that thing within them that they weren't keeping a job, which now is crazy because I see so many people needing a job, and how many people just quit jobs from any little thing just a year or so ago. Um, and I say all this because we are a company that hits multiple six figures. So we are not, we wouldn't be a company that you would think is struggling. But the truth of the matter is, we have always been a bootstrapped company. We don't have investors. And so we were never thrown millions of dollars and said, hey, use this, $1 million, use this $10 million, and let's see what you can build. We started from ground zero. So the first $30,000, actually the first $36,000 came from my savings account and Shania's savings account. And so we literally started this from ground zero. So that didn't mean, that meant that we didn't have the start of like a luxurious, marketing plan or budget. It really meant that we were starting at ground zero. And I'm gonna try to put it in here where, a video or maybe even a short of us when we opened both of our stores. Like, we were literally in there hanging, painting, doing, a lot of the things. We had like a contractor that did some things, but we did a lot of the things ourselves as we were building retail stores. And if you've never built a retail store, it's not like when you rent an apartment, right? It's not like, oh, the landlord is going to paint for you and make sure the floors are clean and set it up the way you want it to be set up, and you just keep it like that. No, retail, especially if it's not a new construction, it's however the last people left it. So we had, our last store, we had wet blue carpets. We had colorful walls. I mean, it was a mess, and we made that place look amazingly beautiful, but that takes some months. It takes some money. I mean, before we even open, we're investing $80,000 into just the retail space. So I'm saying all that's for you to understand that, doing these things, especially like retail, getting all of the inventory, is not an easy feat. And so when you're thinking about, multiple six figures in a year, but then you're also thinking about, a team and inventory and startups is, it equals out real quick, really quickly. In our first store, we actually opened it in the height of COVID. And so we had to do a lot of pivoting there. It was a bold move and it was hard, but I really wouldn't change that part. I think we did a great job. Um, but there were honestly days where I'm like, what is the point of building all of this, investing all of this money, all this time? And I don't mean just the first store, I just mean the company in general, investing all of this time. Um, when it felt like and I don't want to say when I say I'm still talking about me and Shania and even my daughter Samia, because she has helped us build from ground zero. She has been in there, helping us paint. She was that lead esthetician, so she, did services, she did sales. So when I say we, I mean us as a team. And then just even our employees. But it still felt very much lonely and isolated doing it because I think people see one thing and they don't feel like they have to have this, give you that support. And when you see on social media how everybody's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to support this business. I love this, and that. And people say it and they talk about it. But when reality really hits, they're not necessarily doing what they say they're going to do. They're not necessarily supporting the local small business they're going to target, right? They're not necessarily supporting the small beauty store. They're going to Sephora or Ulta because that's the thing. And so a lot of people did a lot of saying stuff that they didn't really follow through with. And so it kind of makes you feel like, what is it for? Because we were building it for people, for community, for the people who wanted healthier beauty options, who wanted to know what they were putting on their skin. And if it feels like nobody is actually receiving that the way we, hoped, like I said, it can feel kind of a lonely journey. It feels like, what is it for, right? So, and if you've ever felt like that, it's totally understandable. And sometimes it means there's a pivot to be had, or sometimes I think it's just perspective. To be honest, some of the things are definitely perspective. Um, but even with all of that, the truth that really shifted everything, what kept us coming back to building Yanni Beauty, to um, going with the punches and going with the flow, was really because we know that when we did change our perspective, we had products that people loved. I mean, we didn't have returns based off of product quality ever, ever in our years. We have never had somebody say, I'm returning this product because I hate it. If we had a return, it may have been something that was sold on Amazon and the color didn't match because they weren't in store, or, it maybe a box was damaged or something like that. But those were still even very much so minimal. We had great reviews. And so if you looked at us on Google, it may have not been a lot of reviews, but the same things that you saw there were the same conversations we had with customers, like all 5 stars. And we love your service and we love the products and we love the space. Like I said, our internal team, we were about a team of 7 to 8, and everybody was really happy. We did very much regular check-ins with our team to make sure this wasn't just something we were thinking, but something that they really wanted. And it was anonymous, so people could hopefully be as honest as possible. In our community, there were so many people who genuinely supported Yanni Beauty in our local store. I mean, because we sold our products around the world, but the local store was a local store, right? We couldn't pick it up and take it anywhere, but we really did have some champions in our area who would come to the store all of the time, book appointments all of the time. Anytime they were running out of products, they were back. They truly did show up the way that we hope, right? And so that was one of the things, that I realized that's what we were doing. Didn't want to keep looking at things as we needed a million customers. We needed a smaller amount of really good, great customers who were truly champions, a true community of people who wanted to see us succeed. Just really love the product, right? Even if it wasn't about us personally, because it's not like we knew these people like that, but we have encountered so many people having a local store, but people just really truly love the product and wanted to see it succeed. Um, with all of that, what we did realize though, I felt like quitting, because of, the lack of things that I thought we needed. And we did need it. I mean, especially, you need sales because you need money to make money. You need money to pay people. You need money to buy new inventory. So that's something I know we needed. But I knew we also needed more customers in order to do that. But again, we needed a set amount of customers, a niche amount of customers, a community who really championed us and who were not one-off purchasers, right? But I started to figure out, really think about that. And I went through a, business program with Goldman Sachs. Made the decision at that time that we went through this business program, but it was all about what your growth journey was. Like, what did you want to do? How could you see yourself growing and how could they help you? But what I realized is that we couldn't do what we wanted to do being just a local business. Being a local retailer outside of the city of Atlanta, was not working. That's it. Beautiful store and all, great service and all, great products. It just was not working. It wouldn't have worked if we were just going after people in Atlanta. It wouldn't work if we were just going after people in Georgia. It honestly wouldn't even work if we were just targeting people in the US, because even we watched our sales in the US, we realized that our sales came from only very specific markets in the US, right? We had great customers in New York, great customers in California, a great amount of customers like in Florida, but it was still not even the whole US. So we had to, kind of think outside of that. And then it was kind of like that aha moment. I traveled a lot, and I tell you this all the time. You all know, if you've watched any of these other videos, that I now live in Portugal. So I traveled a lot before that. And so the aha moment was like, duh, girl, there's an entire world of people who would love what we've created. And that was that. My market was not just my local community. It was not just the US. It was the world. And we are tapping into that. So right now, we are in a rebuilding phase, to be honest. We have closed our local stores. We have stopped hyper focusing on a particular US market or even a US retailer, because we have pitched retailers in the US who say they love the products, but oh, we have so many of this or so many of that. So we stopped just really looking at it like that. And we had to realize we had to close that chapter. So what I closed was not the business, but I did close a chapter of it, in order to start a new one. One, they gave me more clarity of where we could go and how we could truly scale YANY Beauty. It gave me more freedom to do my CEO job, because I am not honestly just an entrepreneur, because I do have a team, and so I do have to be the leader of my team. And then to let me do this with all, less hustle. So I finally have been able to, in the last even year or so, hyper focus on the things that I actually teach other people, right? I teach other people how to build their businesses and help scale their businesses and get up to those multiple six figures like we have. But even when you get there, every level of business requires another version of you. And so I think I'm in that next version of building not just a multi six figure business, but $1 million business, $1 billion business, a truly one that can stand the test of time. But this time I'm honestly building with intention. Even with the brands that I collab with, I'm getting a lot more feedback before I just make leaps because I'm gonna be honest, I am a doer and I think of things and I want to do it. But really taking the time to see, does it make financial sense? Does it make sense from our time and energy? Thinking about the best markets across the globe. And so going into, the UK, into the EU, into Canada, into um, Mexico, these different places, what makes sense for us. And then not chasing a volume, right? Like I said, because a lot of people don't really matter if they're only going to buy your product once, right? You can only truly scale a business if you have returning customers. And so it was more so of stop thinking about that you have to have this grand amount of people. You just have to have the right people. We always talk about quality over quantity. It's really the same thing in business, even in product-based businesses. And I know a lot of people think like, I just need more and more and more, but really it's about the quality of customer. Your best customer is what we teach people, not just any customer. Because again, somebody can buy something from you. Let's say you have a viral moment on TikTok and everything blows up, and then as soon as that viral moment is over, now you don't have a customer anymore unless you then go viral. So we don't want to be a business because I don't think that's scalable. As a business consultant, I honestly don't think one viral moment is a scalable form of business. That's just the truth. It's not. You can go viral and it was like your 15 minutes of fame and now it's gone. So taking that viral moment and creating a scalable business, now that's the way to go, but not just banking on, this very high demand of sales, and that's at one moment and that's it. So anywho, um if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, and you have ever been in this moment, and honestly, like I said, I think if you've been in business long enough, you've probably had to make some hard decisions, or you've probably thought about quitting. Quitting may have felt easier. It's like, I'm gonna go back to a job. I'm gonna go back to my last job or whatever. I honestly have not worked for anybody since 2010, so I don't have no I don't have a job to go back to. I've been a business owner for half of my life, and so I can, I always say maybe to fall back on my consulting or fall back on my legal knowledge or something like that. But I don't really have that I'm gonna go back to work kind of thing, right? But I know sometimes it's easier because you're like, I'm gonna get a regular paycheck. Um, but if that's you, if you are in that space, just know I've been there. Probably many of the most successful businesses, when they were building, they have probably been there. But just think about it in a way where you say, hey, I'm going to pause for a moment. I am going to rebuild or reroute, pivot, as you will. But don't give up. Do I think there is sometimes in a business where it's just like, you know what, we have to end this? Yes, of course. Sometimes businesses were not meant to be because you never had the market fit to begin with. But if you know you have the market fit, if you know you have the structure, you have the strategy, and you are just in a pivoting moment, if you're in that space right now, just stay with it. Do what you need to do to make it right for you, but commit to it, commit to yourself, and commit to your business. And if that is you, comment and just let me know. Just say, I'm still building. Say something like that, right? Because I think as small business owners, as entrepreneurs, it can be a lonely road a lot of times. Even though it seems like a lot of people are entrepreneurs, it is still a very much small community, especially of ones who are truly building businesses and can understand the build. So let's connect, y'all. Let's connect. Because sometimes our next chapter doesn't need more effort. It needs more people who understand. It just needs a new vision, and maybe a community can help you get that. So before you go, if you found this helpful, if you just found any insight in it, I want you to like, comment, and subscribe. Um, so that we could talk more. Because I am going to have some times where I'm going to bring some people on, some other builders on. So if you're one of those people building too, and it may be you, let me know because I would love to just have these real candid conversations with other business owners, other builders like you. So again, thank you for checking out Beyond the Bio with me, Yaminah, Unfiltered with me, Yaminah. And be sure that you go ahead and follow me.